In a small English town, two children dug up something from their garden, two strange stone heads with haunting faces. That night, their home filled with knocking sounds, doors slamming, and furniture moving on its own. Soon after, neighbors swore they saw a half-human, half-beast creature stalking the streets. The stones vanished years later, but the terror never did. In 1971, in the quiet English town of Hexham, two young boys were digging in their back garden when their shovels struck something unusual. Buried beneath the soil, they uncovered two small carved stone heads, each only a few inches tall. Roughly shaped, with eerie, primitive faces staring back, the heads looked ancient and unsettling. At first, the discovery seemed harmless, even exciting. The boys brought the heads into the house, placing them on a shelf like trophies from an archaeological dig. But almost immediately after, strange things began to happen in the household. Furniture shifted without explanation. Objects moved from one room to another. Doors slammed shut on their own. At night, the children complained of invisible hands tugging at their blankets. The family dismissed it as childish imagination until they began to witness it themselves. Neighbors and visitors also reported odd sensations whenever they were near the heads. Some felt sudden chills, while others swore they heard faint scratching sounds in the walls. The atmosphere in the home grew darker by the day, as if the objects carried with them a heavy, invisible weight. Then came the most terrifying accounts. Several witnesses claimed to have seen a strange figure lurking near the house, a half-human, half-animal creature with glowing eyes that watched from the shadows. Some described it as resembling a wolf or a half-sheep-like beast standing upright. It would vanish into the night as quickly as it appeared, leaving behind only the pounding terror in the hearts of those who saw it. As the disturbances grew worse, the family desperately sought help. The heads were passed to researchers and paranormal investigators, who debated their origin. Some believed they were ancient Celtic artifacts, perhaps linked to pagan rituals. Others thought they might be much younger, crude toys carved by hand. But no one could explain why they seemed to unleash such terrifying phenomena. In one unsettling incident, when the heads were placed in a different home for study, the poltergeist activity followed. Furniture moved, lights flickered, and once again, the shadowy beast was seen stalking nearby. Wherever the heads went, chaos seemed to follow. By the mid-1970s, the Hexham heads had gained notoriety across England. Paranormal researchers visited the site, documenting the disturbances but never reaching any clear conclusion. Were the heads cursed, haunted, or simply a catalyst for human imagination and fear? And then, just as suddenly as they appeared, the heads vanished. Passed between researchers and collectors, their trail went cold. Some say they were locked away in storage, others that they were deliberately destroyed to end the curse. To this day, their whereabouts are unknown. What makes the story endure is not just the strange carvings, but the chilling legacy they left behind. A family haunted, a town gripped by fear, and a creature no one can explain. Were the Hexham heads relics of an ancient ritual designed to trap a spirit that escaped when unearthed? Were they cursed objects that brought misfortune to anyone who possessed them? Or were they simply ordinary stones that somehow awakened something far darker lurking in the shadows? More than 50 years later, the mystery of the Hexham heads remains unsolved. Two simple stones, dug up by children at play, became the source of one of England's most chilling paranormal legends, and perhaps a warning that some things buried in the earth are meant to stay hidden. Story number 2. On August 20th, 1966, on a lonely hillside near Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, A young boy flying his kite stumbled upon a sight that would haunt investigators for decades. Lying on the grass were the lifeless bodies of two men, both dressed neatly in formal suits. What made the discovery even stranger was the fact that each man was wearing a peculiar lead mask, the kind normally used to protect the eyes from radiation. The police were called, and soon the hillside became the scene of one of Brazil's most baffling mysteries. The two men were identified as Manuel Pereira da Cruz and Miguel José Viana, both electronic technicians from a nearby town. They were friends and colleagues, known for their interest in electronics and, as neighbors later revealed, their fascination with spiritualism and UFOs. The condition of the scene was bizarre. Next to the bodies lay an empty water bottle, 2 towels, and a notebook. Inside the notebook was a cryptic note written in careful handwriting: "Be at the determined place. Take capsules after effect. Protect metals. Await signal." There were no signs of violence, no weapons, and no struggle. The men's wallets still contained cash, suggesting robbery was not the motive. Autopsies were carried out, but the cause of death could not be determined. There were no obvious injuries. Some suggested they had ingested poison or drugs, but no toxicology tests were performed at the time, leaving the question forever unanswered. Investigators tried to piece together the men's final days. Witnesses recalled seeing them board a bus days earlier, carrying a large amount of cash. They told their families they were going to buy electronic supplies, but instead they traveled to Rio. They checked into a hotel, bought raincoats, and were last seen climbing the hill where their bodies would be found. The lead masks were perhaps the most unsettling detail. They had been crudely cut and shaped by hand, designed to fit over the eyes like protective goggles. Why would the men wear such masks? Some speculated they expected to encounter a bright flash of light, perhaps from an experiment or something far stranger. The note only deepened the mystery. Take capsules after effect suggested that they had swallowed something. But what? Pills to calm themselves, poison by mistake, a hallucinogen for a ritual. Without proper testing, no one could say. Protect metals was equally puzzling. Were they shielding instruments they carried, or was it a coded message that only they understood? Rumors began to swirl. Some believed the men had been attempting to make contact with extraterrestrials. Locals whispered that strange lights had been seen in the sky around the same time. Others suggested they were duped into participating in a dangerous ritual by a cult leader or scam artist who vanished after their deaths. The scientific explanation, accidental poisoning, never satisfied the public. There were no capsules, no chemicals, and no clear answers. Instead, the case grew into legend. The hillside became known as the site of the lead mask's mystery. Over the years, countless theories have been proposed. Some say the men were experimenting with powerful hallucinogens in hopes of experiencing an out-of-body encounter. Others insist they were trying to build a device to contact beings from another dimension, and the masks were to shield them from radiation or blinding light. A few go even further, suggesting they were indeed contacted and paid with their lives. But the truth has never surfaced. The cryptic note remains unsolved. The cause of death remains undetermined. And the image of two men in suits lying side by side with expressionless lead masks over their faces continues to terrify and fascinate. Decades later, the lead masks case is still one of Brazil's most chilling unsolved mysteries. Were these men victims of a failed experiment, casualties of a secret ritual, or pioneers who went too far in pursuit of the unknown? All that remains is a hillside, a notebook, and two lead masks, silent witnesses to a mystery that refuses to die. Story number 3, In the misty hills of County Cork, Ireland, one legend has lingered for centuries, the tale of a woman who seemed to defy death itself. Her name was Catherine Fitzgerald, better known as the Countess of Desmond. And if the stories are to be believed, she lived far beyond the natural span of a human life. Records from the 1600s claim that she was born in the mid-1400s. By the time of her supposed death, she was said to be more than 140 years old, perhaps even older. A noblewoman of status, she attended court, mingled with royalty, and became known for her unnervingly youthful appearance despite her extraordinary age. But whispers surrounded her life. Locals claimed she drank unusual tonics to maintain her strength, dark red liquids that looked suspiciously like blood. Some insisted she consumed herbs and strange brews that no one else dared to touch. Elixirs said to grant longevity, but at a terrible cost. The stories grew stranger still. Witnesses swore that even in her final years, the Countess would walk for miles across the countryside, her posture upright, her movements almost unnatural for a woman of her supposed age. She became a figure of fascination and fear. Her official death was recorded in the early 1600s. It was said that she met her end not from illness or frailty, but from a bizarre accident. She fell while climbing a tree to pick fruit, her body too aged to survive the impact. Yet even then, rumors persisted that she did not truly die. For decades after, villagers spoke of seeing her wandering the lanes of Cork at dusk, her tall, gaunt figure wrapped in noble clothing from another century. Some described her face as pale and ageless, with piercing eyes that glowed faintly in the twilight. Others claimed she moved too quickly, vanishing into the mist like a phantom. The legend of the Countess took on a darker hue. People began to call her a revenant, a vampire-like being who had extended her life through unnatural means. The blood-like tonics she drank were said to be not herbs, but something more sinister. The idea of a woman walking the land for over a century, untouched by death, became a tale parents whispered to frighten their children. Historians argue about her true age. Some dismiss the claims, suggesting exaggeration by chroniclers of the time. Perhaps she was old, but not impossibly so. Yet the stories are persistent. Too many accounts across too many years to ignore. What is certain is that the Countess of Desmond became one of Ireland's most enduring legends. A noblewoman who lived far longer than nature should have allowed, whose beauty and vitality inspired both admiration and fear. Was she truly a woman of remarkable health and resilience, or had she uncovered some forbidden secret of longevity? And what of the villagers who swore they saw her long after her recorded death? Were they mistaken? Or had she found a way to linger on, cursed to wander the land for eternity? Centuries later, the truth is still shrouded in mystery. The Countess of Desmond remains a chilling figure in Irish folklore, a reminder that sometimes the line between history and nightmare is thinner than we dare to imagine.